Here's everything you need to know about Trump's impeachment and how it may affect the 2020 election. First and foremost, in case Twitter has not already shamed you for not knowing impeachment does not mean Trump is being kicked out of office, impeachment does not mean he has done anything wrong, even though, come on.
The conversation I had was largely congratulatory. Paid the military aid to the best of my knowledge.
After this complaint was filed,
Listen to
sir.
me. Largely the fact that we don't want our people, like Vice President Biden and his son, creating to the corruption already in the Ukraine. We're supporting a country. We want to make sure that country is honest. It would probably, possibly have been okay if I did, but I didn't. I didn't put any pressure on them whatsoever.
But will melted candle Mitch McConnell remove his nose from Trump's ass long enough to allow for a fair trial in the Senate?
We'll be working through this process, hopefully in a fairly short period of time, in total coordination with the White House counsel's office and the people who are representing the president in the well of the Senate. Everything I do during this, I'm coordinating with White House counsel. There will be no difference between the president's position and our position as to how to handle this. There's no chance the president's going to be removed from office. My hope is that there won't be a single Republican who votes for either of these articles of impeachment.
And how will the impeachment process affect the outcome of the 2020 election? Will the American people even care in a few months with everything else going on? God.
It is a cold, sad day today. You know, Donald Trump is about to be acquitted, and we can't be more
bullshit Senate. A bullshit Senate led by melted candle man Mitch McConnell. You know what he looks like? He's like one of those birds from the movie Dark Crystal. Dark Crystal's actually a great analogy for this whole thing. You know, back in the day, being a criminal used to actually be a crime. You used to get put in jail. Nowadays, I guess you could just pressure a foreign power and then also stop people from investigating you for pressuring that foreign power. There are three ways you can get impeached. Did you know that, Destiny? There are three. Okay. High crimes and misdemeanors, bribery, and treason. He's 2 for 3. If he was in any sports league, he'd be doing great right now.
Okay, Cody, you might need to cool off. It's okay. So here's what we know. Donald Trump is about to be acquitted in a couple hours because Republicans refuse to see the facts. They refuse to see witnesses, and they refuse to hear testimonies. So I'm excited to see what the culture thinks about it. What do you say?
Do you think the House had substantial grounds to move forward with the impeachment to begin with?
Yes, they had more than enough sufficient evidence against him. Like,
Say one more time.
more than enough sufficient evidence against him.
And that's exactly why Nancy Pelosi was reluctant to sending it to the Senate, because if they're already working with Trump and saying, oh, you know, we're just going to go with what the Republicans think and not actually look into this evidence, then it's not legit at all.
Yes, I do think they had substantial grounds. I think there's been more than enough evidence, and as you see, a lot of witnesses are now coming forward to show that there were substantial grounds for impeachment.
Yeah, he's horrible. He's just horrible. Like, as a person, he doesn't deserve his position.
That's on period.
That's on period.
End of the sentence.
That's on period.
Yes, I do. Since 2017 January, when he was inaugurated, he's just been saying anything, doing anything. Yes, a criminal, really.
She got the MLK pin. Oh, she too cold.
She said we activists out here. She said we doing the damn thing. We saving the world. Okay. Hi, Jalen. How do you feel like the impeachment of Donald Trump would affect the 2020 election?
So I think sadly people will continue to vote for him.
Honestly speaking, I feel like, Donald Trump has been in office for so long. The impeachment, I feel like, doesn't really have a say-so in the 2020 election.
I think America will open up and take more action.
I feel like it's going to actually do a lot of good for Trump and his supporters because they're going to go really, really hard in trying to support him.
With such a recent impeachment, I believe that it kind of would shake things up and really kind of lead people to try to elect somebody who is going to actually stand the test of time.
This will definitely affect his re-election and how people view his presidency, and I just hope he doesn't get elected again.
Hopefully it just opens people's eyes to, okay, this is what you don't want. This is what you don't want. And then it gets worse. So this is what you really don't want. So let's think about a better option here.
I think it also just shows a lot about the people who are supporting him within Congress and also the elections coming up after.
I'm going to have to agree with Corinne and Naya on this one. I just hope they get him out of there, to be honest. And again, this is all white women's fault in the first place, so thank you.
Did she tell a lie? Was there? I'm looking for it.
I was not expecting that.
I'm looking for it.
Okay.
Have you found the lie, Destiny? Did you find the lie? I can't find it. Donald Trump is still president.
It's a cold day in hell for real. Well, I'm Destiny.
And I've been Cody. And this has been Culture Talk.
You've been Cody.
The times have changed. I'm a different man now.
Well, this has been Culture Talk. Let's start back to our panelists to see what they have to say.
America, God shed His grace on me. Give me the mic.
Starting today talking about the Senate trial, if you want to call it a trial, with our president, Donald John Trump. But first, let's start with Will. Do you think the House has a substantial case to be brought against the president?
Yeah, I think the House did a good job making their case against President Trump. I think they could have made 20 articles of impeachment. They exercised restraint by condensing it to 2. But yeah, I think there's plenty of evidence to support both those articles.
No, I completely agree with everything William said. I do think that they could have placed more emphasis on the obstruction of justice. I think that one kind of, that article kind of got lost when we were focusing on abuse of power, because I just think there were so many clear instances where Trump, and he even admitted it everywhere, not only tampered with witnesses, but literally tried to destroy evidence and not provide the Senate with the evidence that they needed to even conduct what even could be a fair trial. So I think they had lots of evidence, just people listening to it.
I just want to clarify for those who don't understand, the abuse of power, that's using the powers of his high office to solicit the interference of a foreign government in the 2020 United States presidential election. And then you also mentioned the obstruction of Congress, that's directing the unprecedented, categorical, and indiscriminate defiance of subpoenas issued by the House of Representatives. Lindsay, was this a wise political decision for the House to go ahead with impeachment?
I think it was wise in the sense that if they wanted to smear his reputation more, then yes, it was wise. But I feel like people who were for Donald Trump, they were going to ride for him no matter what. So I don't think it made a huge difference in who people were going to vote for. I feel like if you were going to vote for Donald Trump, this isn't going to change anything.
How the Democrats handled the trial. We know the trial got off to a rocky start with Speaker Pelosi saying that she was going to withhold the articles to try and get some form of leverage to see if the Senate would agree to witnesses. They eventually didn't do that and the articles got transmitted. So how have the Democrats made their case?
I think, and I've had a lot of conversations with people about this. I feel like the House managers, the smartest people in the room. I mean, with all due respect, if it's even earned, Trump's legal team just making stuff up. I saw a tweet from, I believe it was Bakari Sellers. He's like, anyone who wants to be an attorney, let this impeachment trial be an inspiration, because you can really be an attorney with nonsense coming out of your mouth. I mean, Alan Dershowitz and his somehow, articulation of a world where if you're the president of the United States and you think that you being in office is in the best interest of the country, you can basically do whatever because somehow that's not impeachable. Yeah, I mean, it's nonsense. And as someone who like keeps up with politics and interested in the law, it just seems like an affront to the framers and the Constitution and everything that the Republican Party claims to be so much in favor of.
No, I completely agree. And honestly, like, all imposter syndrome is gone. Like, after, not even with Trump's legal team, but even like U.S. congressmen, like, in their ability on how they've just so clearly switched their positions, and especially with Senator Graham. So with them even seeing on the record, oh, I said this 20 years ago, but then somehow believing like this is not like what I believe now, even when there's clear precedent and when it's clearly so wrong. But what I think, and then getting back to your question about, you know, why this is important, I think more than anything, you know, what Lindsay said is right, that this is not going to change a lot of America's mind, but what it will do, I think, is it sets a precedent that at least that, you know, in the House, at least that we're not going to let a president be so unruly, and that we're not going to let a president go unchecked. And I think that precedent is more important, really, than maybe more so what the actual outcome of this trial was.
Do you think that people will see this as really making an example out of Donald Trump? Because I feel like, you know, if you're not a political science major, like someone who keeps up with politics and law, will you necessarily see this as Donald Trump being reprimanded? I mean, he's still in office and he's still president. Right. Do you think that people are actually going to see this as doing anything?
I feel like it's a lose-lose. I feel like if I'm Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats in Congress, damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you don't impeach him, you look weak. If you do, and he's still in office, you know, it's unfortunate because it's momentum going into his reelection. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, I do think that from now on, impeachment will just become increasingly polarized and kind of a political tool, which, during the Clinton impeachment, it was very political. During this impeachment, it's very political. And I'm relatively kind of scared to see what happens. I'm surprised they didn't try and seriously impeach Obama. I mean, they talked about it a lot.
Well, let's not forget this isn't over, right? The president did get acquitted, but the process is over. But this impeachment really isn't over because now it's punted to the voters in November, right? Voters even said that 44% of voters believe that he should have been removed. We're going into November. How do you think this is going to help his reelection chances now that the case has been made? Democrats have been on the floor of the Senate. They made a very logical argument for removing the president of the United States. The Senate abdicated its duties. They refused to hear witnesses. They even acquitted the man. What do you think the voters are going to do come November?
You know, and I think it's really going to depend on how Democrats spin this whole situation. Because of course the Republican side of it is going to be, they wasted our time. You know, during this 3 months, nothing really got done in the Senate because they wanted to go on this scheme. And they're also going to frame it in a way that they knew they wanted to impeach Trump since January 1st of 2017. So I think it's going to be very important for how they show that they were doing their job, and more so frame it in the way of an everyday American. Like if they were to do something illegal, if they were to not comply with the subpoena, if they were not to show up to court, how would they be treated? And I think it's going to be so important that they frame this as this president who literally believes he's above the law, and just put it in the perspective that no one else in this country is above the law. And so why would you want 4 more years of someone acting in this way?
I kind of disagree with you. I feel like people will see it as Donald Trump got away with what he did.
No, I think that's what I was saying. I think it depends on how the Democrats spin this perspective, because there's definitely that, like, oh, he can get away with anything, it doesn't matter. But I think it's just all going to be about how you convince these voters, and even talking to them individually, like having a campaign rally and just going in at Trump isn't going to be enough. I think it's really going to be, it's going to come down to the organizers and who are actually connecting with the voters.
May I pose a question to everyone? So, yes, Donald Trump was acquitted, but let's say in a fantasy world, if Donald Trump did get removed from office, would we want to see Mike Pence as acting president? Is that something that we would like to see?
Guys, let's make this our final thoughts.
Ooh.
You know, I no. The short answer is no. But I think it's more important that we don't set this precedent that someone like Trump can be in office and literally believe he's above the law. I think it's more important than anything. You know, obviously we have Pence, and if I would have preferred for Pence to be the president for, hopefully the 1 year he has left, if it means that we're now making a statement in this country that we're not going to let rich white men just think they're above the law and don't have to follow the Constitution.
Pence scares me because I think he's probably more calculated than Trump. I think Trump's more emotional. He's more likely to go on a Twitter rant. But I think Pence has been quiet. He's probably the one in the rooms where these conversations and dealings are happening. And at the end of the day, Republicans, despite the impeachment hearing, really at the end of the day, I feel like they just care about big business, putting people on judicial courts everywhere. And I think who cares what the president does in their minds? They're just going to vote for whoever is from their party, which is an unfortunate reality. But I think Mike Pence will probably do as much, if not more, damage to kind of the structural issues that we have in the U.S.
Only time will tell. We still have to wait until November to see what will happen. But, Lindsay, you said this was a big waste of time. Will, you even said that this is weakened impeachment to a political tool. But in the end, if voters remove Trump in November, the process worked. If voters refer back to this impeachment, they refer back to this president being a corrupt person. If Democrats made their case in the House, even if they didn't make it to the Senate, if voters say that that's enough, then the impeachment process worked.
I feel like if someone like Trump is even able to become president, then the process might not be as good as we would like.
Well, impeachment has come and gone, and whether or not it's a smart political move for Democrats, perhaps it was the moral one.
But will it backfire in 2020? We want to hear your feelings about it.
Tell us how you feel about Donald Trump's impeachment in the comments below.
And if you want to stay up to date on all things politics, make sure you're following us on Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Political Culture.